We are in the festive mood here on the Sports Cubicle as we celebrate, as we rejoice, as we bring in Pee-wee, high school, college, and pro football. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. It's Paul Chivari, I'm Mike Mercado, and we wanted to celebrate the new season, the kickoff of all football here in the United States. Yes, that football, Paul, not the other type of football. And we wanted to talk about some of our favorite movies, some of our favorite games, some of our favorite athletes, some of our favorite players to wear helmets on the silver screen. We are taking a look at some of the greatest, some of our favorite football movies of all time. And this is a conversation that goes so many different ways, Paul, when you think about the debate. Who makes better sports movie? Is it baseball? Is it boxing? Is it football? Heck, even some basketball love every once in a while. You got golf, you got tennis. It is a plethora of amazing content to go through. So we have a little bit of fun on this edition where we're going to go through some of our favorites. I'm going to even give a top 5 list. You can almost call it a recommendation if there are some on the bucket list you haven't gotten a chance to see. But we're going to start it off with, one of our favorite things here. A worldly man. You talk about knowing fine cheese and even finer wine. Talk about world traveler. Paul Chivari. Paul, what is your favorite football movie?
Don't call me a world traveler. I've only been to Canada for like a day. That's
Canada's part of the world.
Yeah. I was literally looking at the United States and water falling off of it when I was in Canada. Favorite football movie? Okay, so I have not seen a lot of them, but we're going to go through and talk about some of these. It's like, yes, I've seen it, but I wouldn't call it the best. And I wouldn't sit here and say my favorite is the best, but I've always liked Necessary Roughness with Scott Bakula and Sinbad and Kathy Ireland.
Classic.
Early 90s. It's got like everything you'd want out of it. Like
91?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's 91. Even all those names I listed, like Bakula, Sinbad, Kathy Ireland, Rob Schneider, it was Mike Elizondo.
Right to our hearts.
It's like all these people are like they were huge in 1991.
It's
That's
perfect.
like the peak of all of their careers was right then. So it made for this perfect movie. It's such a dumb thing. It was like I think the plot was essentially the fictional Texas State University was hit with some sanctions or whatever, so they had to like gut the football team. So they pull like Scott Bakula, you still have college eligibility, son, as he's like in the farm field, and then like the Kathy Ireland's kicking field goals or kicking like soccer balls, and like, hey, you should be on the team. And
tropes that we've seen later on in movies.
Oh, absolutely, and tropes that we saw before that
sure,
too.
Fair enough.
But it's like I feel like that movie has lost its luster over time, and that's not my opinion.
Sure.
I'm just saying I just feel like it was not that it was super popular in the early 90s, but it was definitely one that like I remember the first time I saw it was like it was like the Sunday night movie on NBC or something like that.
Yeah.
So my parents recorded it, and on Monday I'm running home to see the edited version.
I love that.
Because there's no way they would have let me see the go to Blockbuster and go get it. That's Blockbuster, for those of you that are younger than the age of 25, is a place where people would go to get movies instead of the internet.
What is a physical movie, Paul?
Yeah, what is
these kids don't know what a
these
physical
things called
movie is.
VHSs.
So obviously you and I, when we talk about movies, a lot of it comes down to we love good dialogue, we love great cinematography, we love great acting, obviously, and some of these movies obviously don't have that. But talking about football movies and what you got from Necessary Roughness, what is something to you that really hits home when it comes to we could merge it with football movies, but what is it about sports movies that for you that is what makes it work? Is it the
It's always going to be the comedy. For me, I love comedy.
So
it's
like a major league.
Yeah, Major League is. Bull Durham is my favorite baseball movie.
Right.
So it's like I'll always lean towards the funny than I will the
but it
sentimental.
has to have smart in it too. There has to be some smart
exactly.
in it.
Because there's been some like Major League 2 is not as good as Major League 1. Obviously, Major League 3 I won't even bother with.
Back to the minors.
I'm trying to think of like a bad a sports movie.
I think like a bad sports movie. I think of like the Longest Yard, where the Adam Sandler version.
The Adam Sandler version. Because I love the original. Reynolds.
Yeah. But here's the thing: it was made with love. It just wasn't good.
Yeah.
Because then when you watch
it got Sandlered, and that was on purpose.
But I love Waterboy.
Yeah.
And I think Waterboy does a better job of football than necessarily The Longest Yard. But
that's a Sandler problem and not a football problem.
100%. But I think The Longest Yard isn't disrespectful to football. It's just not a great movie.
It's nothing like the original.
100%.
I mean, other than Paul Crewe is a hotshot quarterback that gets arrested and has to put together a prison football team. That's the only similarities.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Burt Reynolds version is really takes itself so serious. But at the same time, it's like they don't have like a dude dressing up as a woman,
like Tracy Morgan going crazy, and then you know, just a bunch of different like comedy actors. Which,
but I loved in the original one though, where like I think they're practicing and. The guy that played Jaws as well as the boss from Happy Gilmore.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so it's like the big dude, you know, like he gets like punched and he's like, oh, he broke my nose. Yes, and he's all like, and it's like, well, apologize. And the guy apologizes. He's like, okay, cool. Yeah. You know, it's like, funny moments like that.
Think about it, some of the other ones, like Terry Crews is in this movie, Kevin Nash, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, the great
Bill
Khali.
Romanowski is one of the jerk prison guards.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of great actors, character actors, side actors, and that's a great example of sports movies done for the mass audience, for my father. But then you get to some of these other movies that are on my top 5 list. So how about this? I'll go into my OILs.
Let's hear your football
outside
movies,
looking out, okay? So these are the honorable mentions. Jerry Maguire.
Okay.
I love that movie.
That's not even a football movie.
I know it's...
But because it's such a good movie.
Good movie that happens to be around the world of football. You do get some of the
I'm
scenes with the Cardinals.
Though, if it didn't get Best Picture noms.
How much love would it get later?
It was a slow year.
Jerry
it was a slow year, though. It lost
Sure.
to The English Patient.
Tom Cruise is, I think, phenomenal in that movie, though, with the energy of like a...
It's an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
Everyone loved the little kid. You know, of course, like Renee Zellweger was on the map now.
Cuba Gooding Jr. killed it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, but it's like...
Show me the money.
I mean, like, it's a football movie, but at the same time, it's not a football movie.
But it's a football... Yeah, right,
It's an agent movie
more than anything.
Movie.
That happens to surround football, but if we're talking about movies like Draft Day and...
Sure,
those
but Draft Day is like a football movie, even though it's a front office football movie.
I feel more... If we're going to
You're
count...
in the team that way, though.
For sure, but I feel... If we're going to be on that, not on the field itself, but it's going to be surrounding the game, I'd rather Jerry Maguire than the other one.
I got qualms with Draft Day, too. Like,
100%.
Thanks to Madden and Draft Day, every jerk off the street thinks he can rebuild a football team.
He said every jerk off of the street. Yeah. can do that. But Jerry Maguire, I'm like, School Ties. Stat cast, very fun period piece, and then obviously you got like Brendan Fraser and Matt Damon, and just a cast.
School Ties. Okay, yeah. I didn't see. I never realized that was one until I was looking at the list. I was like, man, what a like. I remember them. Like, I never saw the movie. I remember it coming out. I didn't realize Matt Damon was in that cast.
Yeah, and he's the bad guy in that movie. He's like a real big jerk in that movie. Any Given Sunday. Look, it's to me it was such a hard try for the entire team behind it. I think it was Oliver Stone trying to make this like gritty movie about football when really it was kind of a precursor to what good, gritty look at football would be like. So I really enjoyed that one.
It's great because like Oliver Stone and football crossing paths is good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I think if you told me ahead of time, like, yeah, Oliver Stone's making a football movie, I'd be like, I'm envisioning Any Given Sunday in my head. And I loved that movie. I thought it was very enjoyable. It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't think certain things aged well in it.
No, exactly.
But, you know, another killer cast with Lawrence Taylor, Jim Brown. You can't do an old grizzled veteran athlete without having Dennis Quaid playing.
And then Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Stephen Willie Beeman, Jamie Foxx.
And then Al Pacino.
Al Pacino
Cameron
just
Diaz.
You know, like, I mean, it's such a great
Aaron
cast.
Urquhart as the young assistant coach before he became before he became Two-Face.
James Woods playing a villain, which he does so well.
The Doctor, it's a great Cameron Diaz as the owner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great cast. And then these are two fun ones. Waterboy, obviously just fun, especially if we're gonna
silly, stupid,
and like. Say what you will about Sandler. Sandler loves sports, so all the silly sports movies, there's still some. He'd get some of it.
Even his serious sports movies are good. Like I would say,
Uncut Gems.
And have you seen? Was it the Hustle or whatever?
Yes,
the new one. Yeah.
So I mean, it goes to show that he at least is a sports fan who knows a little bit. And finally, this is a totally silly one, but The Replacements, all cast. Fun, doesn't take it so serious, but there's enough good football done. Plus Pat Samaral and John Madden.
Gene Hackman and Keanu Reeves.
Come on, can't touch it. So here are my actual top 5, Paulie. At number 5, Little Giants.
Okay.
Ed O'Neill and Rick Moranis.
I could see you
The
really
Emancipation of Puerto Rico. It's one of
I think I was like right in the wheelhouse where I was like right in the demographic when it was released, but it was like I enjoyed it. I was a little old for it, but I also remember it came out around the time that I started playing like junior football.
Actually playing,
So kind of like I'll always kind of think of it that way.
Got
like my first year playing like Pee Wee football.
But I hold this with Little Big League and with the rookie of the year, not the rookie, but rookie of the year, and all these like Air Bud.
These like '90s had really good kids sports movies.
100%.
And that's definitely up there. And like Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill as the brother. Yeah.
Come on. Come on. It's perfect. The Cowboys and Giants. Yeah, it's the best.
And at the time, the Cowboys were like the really like awesome team, and like the Giants were the up, like
it's
kind of working their way back. Yeah.
Shout out Pokai. Brian's song.
Yeah.
Made me cry. I watched it in high school. It has obviously Billy D. Williams and James Caan.
I'm a terrible Chicagoan. I've never seen that movie.
Oh, man.
Obviously,
it'll
I know
make
the
you
story.
cry still to this day.
I know the story.
Yeah, it'll still make you cry because it's great actors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, James Caan and Billy D. Williams. Like, you don't get cooler than Sonny and Lando Calrissian playing two of the greatest Bears, right? Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
I mean, Varsity Blues.
I was in high school when that came out, so
again,
I was target demographic. I saw it. I enjoyed it. John Voight plays the perfect villain.
Perfect villain.
You know, of course, Paul Walker and James Van Der Beek being like the quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah.
It's perfect. It's a really fun little quirky OC, One Tree Hill, 90210.
It's funny how many times like Paul Walker showed up in like movies that were popular in that era.
Oh,
like,
but
you know,
so
Varsity
Fast and
Blues,
Furious.
like what She's the One,
Yeah.
and Fast and Furious were all like right around that era.
It's crazy. I mean, shout out, you know,
Yeah,
R.I.P.
Sky
to
Point.
he's the man. We miss him. Remember the Titans? I mean, this movie.
Never saw it.
This is all my demo. You
and
talked
this
about
is
Violent House.
Denzel Washington.
Denzel, and I think just a great movie, great quotes. But my number one movie, Friday Night Lights. Have you ever seen this one?
Never seen it. It got spun off into a TV show.
Yeah, which a TV
I mean,
show
you know,
was great.
even when you put those three words together, you think high school football, these memories.
Billy Bob Thornton, a cast of what would be great young actors coming into Hollywood. The ending is what gets me, though, because I personally, true story, played high school sports, varsity sports my whole life. I've never won a championship. And I've played in one championship in my life, was my sophomore year, and we lost to a bunch of seniors. It's the only time I ever played for a championship. So watching Friday Night Lights was more real to me than Remember the Titans, than any of these others, because it was the reality of sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and sometimes some of these kids have a lot of pressure to go to. But Paulie, we got to manage you. Of all the movies we've talked about, which football movie would make you sit down and watch and break that cycle? Would it be a Friday Night Lights? Would it be Remember the Titans?
Just because of how popular, like, you know, everyone talks about Friday Night Lights, I'm sure it's going to be viewed at some point by me. You know, it's like, I don't know what it's streaming at. You know, nowadays you can't just go to the Blockbuster and just get it when you feel like it. You have to make sure you have that streaming service. And do you want to sign up for that streaming service just to watch one movie? So there's that. I know you would disagree with me, but I've liked Rudy to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent.
And I think that's mainly because my dad's a big Notre Dame fan.
And I'm not. I don't like
and
Notre
it's
Dame.
also, but I think it's like that Midwestern Catholic
Sure.
boy part of it. But at the same time, it's like it's not like the movies. Like I think the movie's overrated. I think the story is not exactly how it went down. You know, the guys weren't all putting their jerseys.
Which is a great scene, though.
And yeah,
Great scene, though.
But what Dan Devine would, you know, like when my dad watched, he's like, Dan Devine would never stand for this. You know,
Sean Austin, though.
yeah.
Like, who doesn't love
Sean
him?
Astin.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the part where it's like he's doing his first practice, and I think he's on the scout team, and he's just getting his butt whooped by all these dudes. And it's the a cappella men's choir from Notre Dame singing the victory song, or you know, like cheer for old Notre Dame. Yeah. So it's just really cool to see him getting his butt whooped to that song. So I mean, that's got to get mentioned. You mentioned some of the ones that I saw in high school, like Any Given Sunday, Varsity Blues. Oh, The Blind Side, though. So like I always thought something was really off about The Blind Side when I watched it. Like I thought it was a great story. I thought a lot of people put pressure on was it Michael Orr to do better because of the movie and whatnot. And it's like I remember kind of the talk at the time was like, why are we making a big deal out of this guy that's barely cracking the depth chart
Of Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Like he's not going to.
But then you find out after the fact that it's like the Sandra Bullock character. It's like that family was kind of exploiting Michael Orr, and that's like recent news that we heard. And that always kind of felt when it was going on. It's kind of felt like it was like a pat on the back for the family taking in the guy, when it's like, was that even really what the story was, you know?
And even to this point now, as the story keeps developing and we're going to see lawsuits and stuff, so there's going to be full disclosure coming out from everything. How much did Michael Orr know? How much did he know going into when he was 17, 18? Was he aware that he wasn't a full family member and they just had custody of his certain rights? How much was he involved with dealing with money back and forth?
Messed up.
I will say this, to your point. I don't want any hate to Tim McGraw, to Sandra Bullock, to all them. Like, they were not part. They have nothing to do with this. The guy who played Mike Orr, if you enjoyed the movie at the time, awesome. But it's okay for a change of opinion. But, Paulie, we're going to keep an eye on that story, because that is a great template of something that you and I have talked about for a long time, is people taking advantage of athletes.
I wanted to mention one, and I don't know the name of it. Maybe you can figure it out for me. But it's got, I saw it on TV one day, and it's like Robin Williams. It's like in the early 80s. Robin Williams like wants to like relive the high school glory days or whatever. You know, it's like he's like watching the film of like the old team that almost won state, you know, and then he's like trying to like put the team back together or like resurrect the memories of it.
The Best of Times?
I think so.
I think it's The Best of Times.
I think you're right.
And you know who's in that? Who plays his second in that movie?
Who?
effing Kurt Russell.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Kurt Russell should be
and
in
it's
more
like,
football
this is like,
movies.
I'm telling you, like, this was years ago that I saw this on like TV, and I was like, I've never heard of this one.
I mean, again, it goes to show that there's a lot in a football movie, and there's a lot into sports movies. I think that's why, and I think this kind of just ties it all together, Paulie, is the reason why we love sports is that it is drama, that it does make for great fantasy, that it does make for great stories. Sometimes the stories that we hear in a game, sometimes we hear in an NCAA tournament, in a women's softball game, in the Olympics, is greater than the accomplishment on the field. And I think that's why sports traditionally make great content for movies.
Yeah, and I just wanted to like close this off with there are so many football movies out there. I don't think we've seen The Natural yet, unless you want to count Friday Night Lights. That's always like the consensus number one. But I don't think we've seen like our number one football movie that's gonna like beat everyone out for best movie of all time.
Let us know on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV, and if you're watching the video version down below, has football had its version of The Natural? Has it had its version of Raging Bull? Let us know. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. For Paul Chivari, I'm Mike Mercado. Stay tuned. We got more on the Sports Cubicle.